Oh, we started.
Surprised you weren't even dressed that time.
No. Do we have ads this time?
Not for this show.
Okay, good.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to Penn Sunday School, starring Penn Gillette. My name is Michael Godot. Matt Donnelly, Penn, and I. We're broadcasting from Chow Creator Studios South here in Las Vegas. We didn't announce who the winners are in the USA Today Top 10 Vegas shows, but you know we probably wouldn't be talking about it in the intro for the second time if you couldn't guess who it was. Here he is preaching love, Mr. Penn Gillette.
I love being the USA Today most popular act in Las Vegas.
Number one.
Not magic.
Oh.
Not comedy.
Really? That's a top 10 Vegas show, wasn't it?
Yeah, top 10 Vegas shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And by top 10, we mean number fucking one.
Number one. Yeah, number one.
So who cares about the other 9?
Yeah. I think Dave's 2, right?
Yes.
Right where he should be. Right behind us. He does a great.
Would have been great
I just called him Dave. I've never called him Dave in my life before.
Did.
David.
That was very odd.
David.
It would be great if he had somehow ended up between you and Teller.
Providing Teller was 3. Yes.
Yeah, Teller 1.
Been very
David Copperfield 2. Penn Gillette 3.
No.
I know what your plan is. I'm just going with the votes, man.
So last Monday, we're number one.
You're number one, and largely because of these podcasts.
Yeah, I think so. I think that people listening helped.
Our podcast pals.
We have a very dedicated listenership, and people voted every day.
Can you imagine if another person in Vegas had won this, how tacky the billboards would be?
Right.
Oh, Jiminy, it'd be terrible. Voted number one magic show of all time, USA Today. Well,
listen, I know you don't care about awards.
You wait till Orlando.
And you're all against this tribalism stuff.
Yeah.
But as someone who is still a tribal motherfucker, it was very fun and exciting to have you in the lead, then all of a sudden be battling with Copperfield.
Yeah.
And see that Copperfield was having other friends vouch for him on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, and it was like a real thing. And for our battle, psychotic, dedicated listeners to come through and pull out the win, it's really fun.
Well, this harkens
Voted
back.
number 1 by the Goofy Bastards.
Yeah,
this harkens back to sorry.
And P.S. While you're thinking
World War One,
everyone should know that per Penn's request, like last time, votepenn.com has redirected to a squirrel fishing YouTube clip.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. There was, what was it called? Star of the Day, I think. There was a talent show in Boston, which is 100 miles from Greenfield, Massachusetts. And it was a talent show. And you would go on every week. It was a local talent show for Boston. And then they would vote at the end of the month and the end of the 6 months and so on. And community auditions. Maybe that was what it was called. Maybe.
Yeah, that was the show. And then the segment was Star of the Day.
Yeah. And community auditions. And Colin Motion and I, Mike Motion's brother, who invented contact juggling, MacArthur Genius Grant juggler, the only juggler that ever got a MacArthur Genius Grant. Best juggler in terms of creativity.
Yeah.
No doubt about it, Michael Motion. And, but his brother was my partner because his brother was a better juggler. And we were whatever we were, 14 or 15, And we wore white jeans because I saw Lenny Bruce wearing white jeans once. And then we wore colorful T-shirts, like I wore pink and he wore orange or something. And we were the toss-ups. And my opening joke was, hi, we're the toss-ups. We used to be the throw-ups. But, yeah. And,
good opening joke.
Yeah, good opening joke. And we would do our time. And we went there, and our parents drove us, because we were not old enough to drive, to Boston. 2-hour drive.
Right.
And 2-hour back. And actually 2.5, I guess. And I remember Colin was even though this was 1969 or 1970, we had fairly long hair, and we were punks. Colin was. Colin did not suffer fools. So we went in and did our rehearsal. And I've told this story before. There were no drops. And the director came over and said, okay, let's run that again. And Colin said, there were no drops. We did it right. And they said, we just want to get the camera straight and do the blocking. Colin said, we did it right. We're not going to do it again. And then at the end, they said, why don't you smile? And Colin said, we don't smile. We just drop our props and stand there. And they said, you look like a couple of punks. And Colin said, we are a couple of punks. So we did our thing, and we finished and just dropped our props and stood there looking at the camera. No smiles, no nothing. And then we sang, at the end, everybody sang the song, Star of the Day, who will it be? Your vote may hold the key. It's up to you. Yeah, you. We had to point in the camera.
Right.
Colin and I wouldn't sing, wouldn't point in the camera. We just stood there with our hands in our pockets while everybody else said, Star of the Day, who will it be? Your vote may hold the key. And then we went back, and they hated working with us.
Right.
We went back, and then all the other people on for the votes called up all their family and friends and tried to rally them together to call in and vote for community auditions. Now, I don't know. I'm sure my parents voted, and I'm sure Colin's parents voted, but we said we wouldn't let them. I didn't vote. Colin didn't vote. We were too cool for that. And then we won, right? We won, which was amazing. It was amazing.
Right.
Oh, we won. And then they called up to tell us we won, and we had to go back for the next level of finals. And it was great. They hated us so much, they said, we'll just show the tape from last time. And we won that too.
That's
There
great.
was another level, and they said, we'll just show the tape. And we won, and I still have in my house in Greenfield, which, our friend Chris lives in my house in Greenfield, my parents' house, we still have, it's a 3.5-foot trophy.
Yeah.
Wow.
It says community auditions, the toss-ups, and the year and the date that we won. I don't know if we won for the whole year or whatever, but I'm always trying to find that video. I mean, there's no way it exists, right? There's no way it exists. But boy, would that be a great video of us with our hands in our pockets. And I keep wondering, was it like a bunch of like frat boys who were watching it?
Somebody else doing it as a kick, as a joke.
And just said, those mean-spirited jugglers, let's make them win. Because everybody else were like tap dancers and singers and smiling and putting we love you all. And then these two kind of surly for no reason. What's there to be surly about when you're 15? Well, that you're 15.
Right.
That's the way you are. And I sometimes see my son, who's 13.
Yeah.
And I see the
surly, yes.
the size he is. And when he gets in his teenage moods, I just go, that's what I was like, except I was juggling.
The production staff member who had to explain to the person about to lose week after week that they're just playing the same tape from the week before.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tap dancing here today, though.
What's that?
But I'm tap dancing here today.
Yeah, I'm here today.
I'm here today, and I'm doing it today.
And they don't have to do anything? They're just playing their best performance?
Yeah.
Well, see, when we had them here, they were pains in the asses. And they're winning?
And they keep winning, huh? I'm also a pain in the ass, I guess. Can I win?
Yeah. And that person, Dionne Warwick. She decided right then, I'm going to change my ways. No more Mr. Nice Guy. So thank you to everybody that had Penn and Teller, the surly magicians. Now, as don't just stand there with your hands in your pockets. You look like punks.
That's what you're missing from your variety arts career, Matt. You haven't done any
I'm
really
missing plenty of things from my career.
pointless talent shows.
Well,
That's true.
America's Got Talent.
There's a good one.
That's the pointless magic.
Yeah.
That's really much too big, though. You need to be at a gay nightclub.
Yeah.
I'll go. I mean, I'm accepting all invites at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we always did that. Colin and I did that. And then when I teamed up with Mike,
Right.
after I did Colin went off to the Navy, and I teamed up with Mike Motion, and we did an act. The whole thing we would do is if there were no drops, only if there were no drops during the show, which was, by the way, very often, no drops. We were careful about that. When we finished the whole show, throw all the props on the floor. Just boom, throw them down.
Nice.
It looked great when you've never seen those clubs hit the floor.
Yeah.
The last, and the way we would do it was we would throw the last club nice up high in the air. We'd both reach our hands out. It would fall beside our hands. And we'd throw the other two down.
That's nice.
Yeah. So just saying, we're done. We're out of here. And it was, I've always thought that's the way you should end a juggling show. If there's no drops. If it's dropped before, people are going, what are you so snotty about?
Yeah.
You do it right, Seems like, like if The Who really sucked, smashed their instruments at the end would be stupid. You'd be like, oh, you're mad at your instruments because you can't play them.
Yeah, that's different.
It's a different feeling. So last Monday, I went over to Mr. Chow's.
Yeah, you were saying.
And I had to get up. See, this is
animal product.
This is the thing I fucking hate so much. Okay? The long-suffering Glenn calls up and says, what time does Penn have to be there?
Right.
And they say, he has to be there at 8 a.m. And Glenn says, he will be there before 8 a.m. And he will go through makeup in 5 minutes. And he'll be mic'd up in 5 minutes. And you can actually have him with the briefing from the producer. He can be on camera rolling at 8:15. Now, other people will be coming in. If you say 8, they'll come in at 8:20, 8:25. They'll have coffee. They'll monkey around. They'll take a while getting the makeup. They will not be ready to be on camera until 9:30. So if you're going to actually shoot at 9:30, give an 8 call time, but tell me that Penn can be here at 9:15 because Penn was working until midnight last night. It's a drive-in. He's got to get up. Let's give him a good night's sleep. And they argue back and forth, and they argue, and they argue, and they argue, and they argue. And I'll tell you that this show was pretty good because we went on at 9:30. I had to be there at 8, went on at 9:30, and I was ready at 8:15.
Pretty good, yeah.
Ready at 8:15.
Yeah.
So I had an hour and 15 minutes that they had me there early. But it was a wonderful, fun show to do. We had Maximilian Chow, which is one of the Mr. Chow's sons, a guy named Chef Dicky, because his has a Chinese name that people aren't comfortable with, Ann Burrell, who's one of the stars of the Food Network, Eileen Moore, who is the president of like Caesars, or a lot of Caesars, and Scott Conant, who's a New York chef. Okay, we were all there, and there were 2 groups of people cooking, right? And then we had to eat, right? And they were very, very, very kind to me. Now, just 2 years ago, if you said to me you have to go on a show and eat meat, I would have been like, I'm breaking the rule. This is great. This time, they brought out this spicy orange chicken dish that I would have just wolfed down, 5 helpings of, even 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And I just saw the chicken on the plate, and it just looked disgusting to me. And they were very kind because they let me have the vegetables and still comment. And they wanted me to pretend that I'd eaten it, I think, but I didn't want to do that. Sure. So I just said I didn't try the chicken, but the vegetable, and I commented on everything around there. Right. And they also had this beautiful, perfectly prepared spare ribs and perfectly prepared tenderloin, and it looked awful to me. It looked terrible to me.
So sad.
I had no desire for it at all, but boy, they brought out cold sesame noodles, and they were so good.
That is delicious.
And they brought out this wonderful big salad, and I had really good food. Although I don't ever eat till 5:30 in the evening. I eat 2 meals a day before the show and after the show, but I don't eat during the day at all. So it was so weird for it to be 9:45 in the morning when I usually get up at 10.
Yeah.
So before I wake up to be eating Chinese food in a fancy restaurant in a suit with people around me. But boy, they were knowledgeable, Maximilian Chow. And I did this thing at the end. There was a lot of talk. There was two groups of cooks competing, right? So Chef Dicky, who is one of the,
are you a judge on this show or just a participant?
We were not making final judgments. Certainly our comments were brought in. Now, the Chef Dicky guy, who I believe is executive chef for all of Mr. Chow. Now, English clearly a second language. His English was heavily accented. I don't know if he's Cantonese or Mandarin, but Chinese. One of the most articulate, thoughtful people, speaking so intelligently about food, and Maximilian Chow also, although American, English first language. Both spoke beautifully. And all the way through, and this is the heartbreaker of comedy, all the way through, they were talking about, because these are people that they're competing at all different restaurants. So the chefs were now trying to cook Mr. Chow type food, invent the food and do it. And then the day before, they were at Bobby Flay's or something, doing barbecue. So it was seeing how versatile they were. So there was a lot of discussion of, could this be on the menu at Mr. Chow's? And then this traditional Chinese. Right. And then they both spoke beautifully. Chef Dickey spoke beautifully about traditional Chinese food, right down to exactly the heat of the wok that you would be using for the way the vegetables feel. A difference between American Chinese food and Chinese food. Oh, yeah. The same dish. He spoke beautifully and eloquently and everything else. It was a joy to hear him speak. And Eileen and I were just kind of there, just to eat. And although she's very well spoken, so we finished this whole thing, and I'm all gearing up, and I'm really, really surprised at how much I've changed myself in that the animal products are not attractive to me. Appealing. And one of the fried rices that I had a little egg white in it, and I had that, so it was not strictly vegan, but they were very kind to me. They were plenty of vegetables, and they were really good. And they also were prepared, like one of the things they gave me, the salt and pepper chicken, they gave me salt and pepper tofu. So I had all the same sauces and everything else. Yeah. And so I could comment.
Which is why I read the sauces is why you read the things anyway.
Yeah. So, somewhat relative.
The sauce delivery.
But I'm all setting up for this joke, and how it tanked. So we finished the whole thing, and Chef Dickey, I think his last name is Fung, but they call him Chef Dickey because his name is very difficult to pronounce for an American. And Maximilian were speaking so intelligently about this would be more Northern Chinese. This would be very intelligently. And then we finished our meal and we were about to go. And I said, well, at least we'll have for dessert traditional fortune cookies from China. And Maximilian Chow looked at me and said,
the color drain out of their faces.
Looked at me and said, fortune cookies are completely unknown. And I said, I know. They're invented in San Francisco. They're strictly American. No one in China's even heard of them. I know that. It was a joke. And he went, I know it's a joke, but I still have to comment on it. Fortune cookies are not China. I said, I know. They're not China. I know. They're not Chinese. They would not be served. I know. I know it's strictly, I know. And I had just seen, so I talked with him afterwards, I had just seen when I was in the middle of the China Sea, a guy came out to, was a woman, I don't remember the gender, doesn't matter. A speaker came out and talked about Chinese food and talked about chop suey and General Chow's
chow mein,
party chicken. General Chow, is it better than
party chicken?
Yeah,
party chicken, spicy
General Tso's chicken.
General Chow's chicken, and talked about these dishes and showed this wonderful footage of them bringing these Chinese American dishes over to China and asking people in China what they were. And them thinking that it was from McDonald's. Them thinking that there's no guess it was a Chinese.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Didn't even think it. Didn't even consider it was Chinese. Yeah. And then fortune cookies. The whole story. I think it's San Francisco and how it developed. They know the bakery, and the person just made it up, and it wasn't even a Chinese American. Just made up fortune cookies. It's totally American thing. And so I saw this whole documentary, was very, very proud of my joke. And then afterwards I said to Maximilian, I really did. He said, yes, I know you knew. I just did not want that joke in my restaurant.
So you asked him if he would juggle your books, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Can you make my wife disappear?
Yep. Stepped right in it.
So that was that. But it was and I was really, really surprised to do. I thought that the smell of they served the meat was like served table side with the carved table side, and I just went. it just looks like flesh. Yeah, it's just not what I eat. It's not what I eat. Now, if they'd opened a big jar of peanut butter, we would have had a party. Because boy, peanut butter is my evil angel. Yeah. I come home from the show and peanut butter sits there going, "Fuck the diet. Eat a whole jar of me."
Have you tried it with crumbled up like toasted pecans? Just
of course.
You don't need some chocolate chips and some pecans.
When I take a spoonful, I've said this before.
No, I know.
When I take a spoonful of peanut butter, it's the size of my fist.
Yeah,
it really is a quarter.
Special made spoon.
A quarter of a big jar. It's what I like to eat. And
it's really a gravy ladle.
If I had right now my the food that I shouldn't eat that I most crave.
Yeah,
is Lay's potato chips with peanut butter. Just spoonfuls of peanut butter, then Lay's potato chips.
I've seen you stuff whole handfuls of Lay's.
I just love it. So
the whole bag at once.
I go hang out with Teller after doing my my Mr. Chow's adventure, and then we go over to do at the studio here in town coverage. We go over to do Good Morning Australia. It's the early morning Australia show, which they do very civilized in Australia. Their early morning show in Australia is 2:30 in the afternoon. Isn't that nice of them?
Well, it's very nice.
That's really
to move their morning around.
Yeah,
for
they
you.
do. They do. 2:30 in the afternoon. So we're going on.
You're not thinking that's time change? You're not? No?
Oh, I guess that would be it. Yeah, might be it.
Right.
But boy, it was pleasant. It's pleasant to be doing it. Because, when you do Good Morning America, oof, you're up at 4.
Yeah.
When you're doing Good Morning Australia.
Country Boy Eddie shows early.
What's that?
The Country Boy Eddie show is early.
What's Country Boy Eddie?
That's just a southern morning show.
I call it Good Morning
They
Dog
do the
Fuck.
fishing report.
And then you're in there with squirrel fishing.
Yeah.
So we're doing Good Morning Australia. And I have, this is important, it's Penn and Teller, which means I'm always sitting on the Penn side and Teller's on the Teller side. And we're sitting next to each other behind a desk with a backdrop of Vegas behind us, and we're doing we're doing a feed in there. And I have an earpiece in my left ear because my left ear is the one I can hear better out of when it's loud. When it's loud, I can hear it a little better. And so I get the piece of my ear, and they say to me. Out of people you've had on Fool Us, who are some of your favorite acts, right? Mm-hmm. And I say, we had Piff the Magic Dragon and I do that. And then I say, yes, and of course, one of our favorite of all time from Australia, Helen, and then Teller whispers in my left ear, Helen Coughlin. I have the earpiece in, and they're talking to me at the same time. Tell her, I can't hear you. They're talking to me in the earpiece. My ear is completely blocked off. Helen Coughlin. What? Helen Coughlin. No, Helen. So Teller is now yelling into my ear with the earpiece over it on live TV in Australia till he finally goes, Helen Coughlin. And I go, yeah, Helen Coughlin. She was great. And they go, well, we finally heard Teller talk, I guess. And I go, there's 3 of you talking to my ear at once. All of you shut up. Give me a moment of peace. Well, that was Penn and Teller. They'll be coming to the Sydney Opera. So we are going to be at the Sydney Opera House in January followed by a gig in Brislin at like the K-Pack or something.
And you'll be walking in with a blanket over your head so you don't look at the
Opera House.
The Opera House?
I would like to not see the Opera House. I would like that. That is one of my goals.
Good luck on that.
But we're playing it. And I guess it's if you want to go see it, you should go see it because I believe we're wicked close to sold out.
Yeah.
You know, I had this thought the other day, you know, when I was 17, 18, around there, I loved Lenny Bruce. I loved obscenity and transgressional comedy. I loved things that were shocking. And my view about sex was extremely libertine. And there were older people, the generation above me, my parents' age and younger too, who thought that speech should be carefully regulated. And I was too young when it happened, but I read about it after Lenny Bruce being arrested and not being able to work, which is important. Separate from being arrested, more important than being arrested, actually club owners didn't want him there. So Lenny Bruce couldn't work because of obscenity. He couldn't work because his jokes offended people. And then I realized that I was sure of this, that by the time I was 60, I would be conservative.
Right.
And if I had children, they would be telling me, no, we can be more sexually open than you were. And they would be saying, we can be more for legalization of drugs than you are. And we are going to be saying things in our comedy and in our music that will shock you. I waited for that.
Right.
I expected that. I wanted to be in the position of Lenny Bruce with Frank Zappa. You know, Zappa, I'm going to read this exactly. Zappa was a real Lenny Bruce fan, and Lenny Bruce was a jazz enthusiast, was never connected with rock and roll in any way. Lenny simply went to the show. He went to see the Mothers of Invention. They were on the same bill. And Lenny Bruce, who Frank Zappa loved, went to see Zappa. And then said, after he saw Zappa, Lenny Bruce said, very simply, he said, you know, I really don't understand this. This is really beyond me. I don't get it. It's great, but I don't get it. So Frank Zappa had gone beyond Lenny Bruce.
Yeah.
And I was waiting. You know, I knew that about Lenny Bruce and Frank Zappa, you know, two huge heroes of mine. And I was waiting for that. I was waiting to be the one who did not get it. You know, I was waiting to have rap music go beyond me. You know, the fact that Kendrick Lamar I get it. Yeah. Completely. The fact that Eminem, you know, I get it. Even the weird electronic dance music, I'm not obsessed with it, but it doesn't seem like, whoa, what's this? Jonesy, what's this? Playing someone to play records, you know. But that's not me. And all the LGBT stuff and even the non-sexual stuff and all of that, I just fly right with it. There's no problem with any of that. There's nothing that's become more conservative and tighter. And now you read the news, and I'm not really commenting on the Saturday Night Live guy. I don't really know. I'm not really talking about Trudeau. I don't really know. But all I know is that now I'm on the other side of it, and I want it to be, whoa, I don't get it. You guys have gone wild. And the position I'm really in is, oh, you would also not let Lenny Bruce work.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if Lenny Bruce were working, I would be seeing this again. If Lenny Bruce's act were done word for word, he would not be able to work. And not because it's dated, you know? And I think people argue with me on this, it's the same reasons.
I think so.
I mean, it's different, but at some level, it's the same reasons. At some level, it's this bothers us, we're offended by this, I don't know. But as Piff pointed out, and Piff is right, just because a genius breaking down walls says stuff that's transgressive, that doesn't mean everyone who's transgressive is a genius. Dicks are also transgressive.
Right.
You can have
Yeah.
talentless assholes.
Yeah.
And that's the mistake that Piff tells me, don't make that.
I think
You're also pretty progressive. There were people like you at that time who were not offended by Lenny Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not surprised by the rock and roll music or the clothing.
Mm-hmm.
You're just that person.
I guess so, yeah. I guess
I mean, you're looking at what was a media reaction to it rather than the actual human reaction.
Right. Yeah. And, and my mom and dad were never for banning this stuff.
Right.
They just didn't want to see it.
Yeah.
Which is the, I think, the political position in between that. But Piff's really right. And everybody that's going to write in and attack me for this, let's say Piff has already done it. It doesn't go both ways. Because Aristotle is a man does not mean all men are Aristotle. Because Lenny Bruce was a genius who talked in ways about sex and about race and about religion that were transgressive, does not mean everyone who talks about that is as genius as Lenny Bruce. And we haven't really got a test now. We haven't really got somebody on the scene who is the level of Lenny Bruce who's doing that. Maybe
Sarah Silverman.
No, but she's
close.
She's backed away a little bit
she has.
from that. Yeah,
I think it's a difficult time. I think one of the hard parts for me, Jim Norton actually said on Twitter that just because you don't like someone's jokes doesn't mean they're not jokes. And I was actually talking to my father-in-law about this morning, actually, but over coffee. But it was in the justice system, we have murder, then we have manslaughter, then we have 3 degrees of manslaughter.
yeah.
And on the internet, we don't have those degrees.
Well, Piff said you have to separate the mob from the logic.
Right.
Saturday Night Live is fine saying, this guy we thought was funny, he did this dick stuff before, we don't want him in our workplace.
Yeah.
That's okay. You can't confuse that with the mob. Because I think the mob, there's, as Piff said beautifully, there's always 10,000 assholes who will attack everybody for everything.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what it is. I had a good time vacationing with my family in Florida. Yeah, well, you dick.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely true.
Yeah. So you got to put them out of the system.
I agree.
Entirely.
Yeah.
But I'm just I'm still haunted by the fact that in the 80s, way back in the 80s, Lorne Michaels, when we were on Saturday Night Live for that season. Lorne Michaels said to me that every time they do a show, they run an old recording of Saturday Night Live that starts when it starts and goes all the way through, so that if someone dies or something horrible happens, they go right to that. And they've never done that.
Right.
But they always start the recording right at the same time so they can go to it. And Lorne said that they allow Lorne, it's a tradition, to pick what show he wants to run alongside. So there's a show running alongside that no one will ever see that Lorne gets to choose. I feel like running this one if someone dies during the show. And he said in the 80s, and this shocked me, he said, NBC has told me that there's many shows from the first 3 years that we can't show.
Yeah, sure.
Times change. Times change. I got to accept that. What I'm saying is, I have to learn that times change, and I have to learn they're not going to change in the direction I expect them to.
Yeah.
That's all.
Right. No,
All in the Family was farther out there than anything on TV now.
And also, we looked at the internet and YouTube and all these other places, hey, we can give every minority voice a platform. Well, some of those minority voices are bigots.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we that great liberal dream of letting everyone have their fair shake and gain their audience, if they have their audience, then who are we to deny them? Well, it turns out that does go at some of our stuff a little bit, and that people gaining notoriety or whatever for these interests it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't, not politically. I just mean that like when, we had a black president and gay marriage got legalized and like companies were saying, hey, we don't need to stick signs on bathrooms. It kind of felt like, oh, we are becoming a more liberal society.
We're getting there.
And then anyone else who spoke up during that time, the whole like, thanks Obama joke, was such a minority that like, they're just old fuddy-duddies who will fade in time.
Yeah.
To find out that perception was really not true.
Really not true.
Really not true.
Yeah.
Is the bigger pill to swallow, I think, in all of this.
Are you having trouble with libertarianism now? Is this leading into that?
Definitely.
Okay.
Part of it was Harari's book, realizing that equality and freedom are opposing forces.
Right.
Was a really hard thing for me to actually understand because I very comfortably thought I believed in both.
Yeah.
And when you look at like Godot forwarded an article about like,
this amazing article. Let's pull that up.
New York Times International Life Sciences Institute.
A shadowy industry group shapes food policy around the world. It was in September 16th of this year, September 16th, just a few days ago. Yeah. A shadowy industry group shapes food policy around the world.
Yeah, the organization that championed tobacco interests during the 80s and the 90s in Europe and the United States has now moved into food restrictions in Asia and Latin America and all over the world. And so a group that was, pro-tobacco is now doing everything they can to influence government policy towards foods that, look at least to be, on the surface, to be unhealthy.
Yeah, very, very unhealthy.
And, you and I talk about this a lot. We've all talked about this a lot, about good and evil. And this seems to me to be Marvel Universe level of evil. This is specific people infiltrating government policy making.
Well, we should explain what it is.
Yeah.
This is a group that actually gets themselves into policy making positions and then uses that to make sure that junk food is promoted heavy.
Yeah.
Now, these are people that the tobacco people that were doing that stuff, they knew that they had the information.
They had studies and they had information that this was terrible.
Here's the part of this that troubles me about this whole article.
Right.
Robbie Libin smoked 5 packs a day.
Yeah.
I used to smoke along with Robbie. I don't know when the first cigarette I put in my mouth was. It was to do with fire eating, probably when I was 19, probably 1974. Robbie's first smoke was probably 1973. The very first time a cigarette was put, Robbie put a cigarette in his mouth, and Robbie lit that, and Robbie pulled the smoke into his lungs. The very first time he did that, he knew it was not good for him.
Right.
He also knew that nicotine was addictive. He had that fucking information. I think even in India, I shouldn't say even in India, that is a level of unpleasantness, I should
Also
say.
in India.
Also in India.
Yeah.
Anybody picking up a Coca-Cola does not think this is as healthful as water, right?
Yes, I suspect that that's true.
That information is out there. When you were going through your worst junk food time in your life, before Dr. Clapper,
right,
before you were even that fat,
right,
when you just picked up a Twinkie, and then you had some beef jerky with it, and you washed it down with a beer, did you believe that that was the healthiest food you could be eating?
No,
but I don't.
However, so, but I am regularly influenced more often than these arguments tend to give credit to. In other words, like
use other words.
we advertise for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, people know Penn and Teller are great. They don't think I should go see a show haphazardly. Something comes in and says, "Let's do it." You know. So when you have convoluted science stories constantly competing for my interests, and then advertising telling me to eat shit all the time.
Yeah.
My brain goes, it's all a fucking mess anyway. Why not just have this thing?
So it's not
They're covering up the level of bad.
They're
obfuscating.
They're obfuscating the information, like climate change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're throwing in doubt where there really isn't doubt.
Yes.
Right. And like where I was going even with the drug thing, you talk about the cigarette thing, right? Like here's where I have like a hard problem. Like, yes, we all know meth is bad for us. We all know opioids can be bad for us. We all see these giant problems. It's hard for me to think the government should have no role in addressing the current crisis of opioids or meth.
But can we come back to the solution for bad speech is more speech? So now there's an article in the New York Times that says the shadowy industry group shapes food policy around the world.
Right.
What's stopping people from putting up billboards that say, don't drink sugary, fizzy drinks?
Yeah, I do think that
who pays for that is the issue, because we know that
George
this
Soros.
company who has the
George
billions,
Soros.
right? But then you ask George to do it. You know what I mean? These guys have the money and a reason to do it, and the only reason to not do it is we're not going to make money by causing this to not happen. We're just going to spend money trying to stop it from happening.
Yep.
And that's not the same as if I can advertise this and drive people to it, I make money. And so what you're asking is the rest of us to pay to fight against things.
Yeah,
when there's no benefit for us.
But we come back to this. All of that is a perfect argument if you firmly believed the first time you had a Twinkie this was as good for you as a carrot.
So,
I mean, you have to have freedom, and you have to have personal responsibility. So you can't have freedom without the freedom to be stupid.
Yeah.
And people are going to lie to you. And it seems like our job is to teach our children that there are ads.
Yeah.
There are billboard ads in Vegas that say the best show in Vegas that you and I know is not the best show in Vegas.
By any measure.
By any metric. There's no metric that this is the best show in Vegas. No metric at all that's on the sign. Yeah. I believe that many people, everybody, drives by that sign and goes, well, someone paid for that sign and the people are making money off that. I don't know if it's the best show in Vegas.
But what happens when our government is involved in that? Isn't that a different question? I understand that Twinkie is going to advertise and say, this is delicious, you should try this. Mm-hmm. And I know Twinkie's not that good. I probably shouldn't eat that most of the time.
We're using a snack that's
and
out of business.
I apologize, yeah. Well, that's a good one. It's not. I think it's back.
Oh, is it back?
It is back. But
it's back. I just had some with beef jerky and a beer.
Yeah, I got some right here.
I don't know why I picked that as your food.
Breakfast of champions.
Where it becomes our government.
He's finishing.
Yeah. Where it becomes our government is where it becomes, I think it crosses a line into, this has just gone bad. This is just people lying. This is just people manipulating us in a different way than, come try my Coke.
But why not? Why not have the government out of it entirely?
I'd be happier with that solution. That isn't the one we have. We have a government telling us what's good and bad. And around the world, we have policy makers telling us what's good and bad. And those people are no longer policymakers. They are people from the International Life Science Institute.
Yeah, the food triangle.
They are people who are in there they're in a disguise. This is like Batman. They're lying about who they are.
Right. So what I would say is that can we solve this problem with more freedom? The question I asked Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
Right.
Can we solve this with more freedom?
Yes.
And the answer would be get rid of the fucking food triangle.
Right.
Don't make people pay money for corrupt people to say this is how much dairy you need in your fucking food.
That's true.
Shut up.
That's all. Yeah, those are all lies as well.
Shut up.
Right. And so then when you come down to the situation like where, the current one is the OxyContin people. Mm-hmm. Those people who've made the money are now moving that money offshore secretly so that they don't have to pay for being caught with their pants down.
But we have to also have some responsibility for the people that took the oxy. When I took oxy, I was very aware that this was something I shouldn't get into deep.
Right.
And when I had a problem, which I did with codeine, I was drinking too much cough syrup. I knew of all that stuff. I want to find the guy who actually believed that you could take oxy every day without having a problem.
Right. And that was advertised and that was pushed by doctors. And those people who pushed that and knew that had information that was not okay. And so they had the information that wasn't okay and said, no, it's okay. And that's a level that
who do you want in charge of that?
Yeah, we have to find some way to address this because that type of criminal behavior there should be penalties for that. The people at Boeing probably knew that 737 MAX was in danger,
or making the safety upgrade.
But the free market took care of that instantly. Boeing has not sold any more jets.
Yes, but also the people who sold the one that killed those people, there is a reasonable argument to be made that those are murderers. I believe that there's a reasonable argument to be made that those people murdered those other people because they had information that could have saved their lives and chose to not do it for money. Mm-hmm. And specifically for money is where we get a real problem.
I don't see why money makes a difference. If you have a tort system where you can prosecute those people and prosecute them for murder. Murder is illegal. There's no problem with that. The problem is you can't have corruption in government. And a good way to get corruption out of government is to make government smaller.
Yeah.
If government is small enough, there won't be corruption in it. If the government doesn't have enough money to funnel into Trump.
I do not believe that the government is the answer to these questions. Mm-hmm. But these are real problems, and I believe real evils that are.
Yeah.
This is not, we often talk about evil being, well, we just don't understand their point of view. If you know that airplane can crash and kill a bunch of folks and you're still selling it, that's where evil is.
Well, but no, because can crash and kill a bunch of folks is true for every single thing. We are putting a price on human life all the time. Every car that's sold in the United States of America could be made safer for money. No doubt about it.
Right.
You could cut into your profit and make it safer. There's not a car on the road that is not made safety. And we also know for a fact that if the speed limit was lowered to 35 miles an hour everywhere, you would cut down on deaths tremendously. We also know for a fact that if we made all sorts of food manufacturing illegal, processed food, smoked meats, so on, we would cut down on deaths. We're not willing to do that. So you're not talking about a hard, fast, evil line. You're talking about a line that is always there. Everybody says you can't put a price on human life. Well, motherfucker, we do it every single day.
We do it every day.
When we decide that the speed limit is going to be 65 instead of 60, we have decided this is the number of motherfuckers that will die so we can get to our places quicker and we can save money and make more money. Mm. We decide that all the time. We decide all the time, every bridge, every building, everything in your life could be made safer, and you make the decision that gamble is enough. So worth it. So the problem is there is not a line where it's just evil. The problem is those decisions are made all the time. I got on a motorcycle when I was 23 years old, rode in the back with a stranger. I made the decision that thrill was more important than that safety of my life at that time. And if I'm going to make those decisions, if I'm going to drive home and decide to get some French fries, then everybody else has to have that freedom too.
This is what's funny. I love when you talk about libertarianism. I rarely like it when anyone else does. And that's the truth. I came out of here like a total New York City lefty liberal, And over time, meeting you and your friends became very libertarian, even voted libertarian, and then felt the need to kind of backpedal away from that. And this is where I've come to at the moment, right now at this moment. I love libertarianism. I love it because it fights against what historically our human nature is. Our human nature is that we are people that will gladly deify and devote ourselves faithfully to random things all the fucking time.
Yeah.
You look at the history of human beings, we just love deifying something, creating a community within that, and being devout and pushing away sometimes science and knowledge because of it. Tribalism, whatever you want to do it, but we absolutely do that. And so libertarianism constantly challenges us to be our smartest and most ethical selves. And that's why I love hearing you talk about it and why I love engaging in debates about it. It just gets so tangled at a practical application.
It does. And it bothers me a lot. You know, what I always say, and I've said this on Bill Maher a zillion times, that as soon as you argue for libertarianism, they will tell you, what about schools? What about roads?
Yeah.
And I just go, well, okay, let's not even get to that.
We'll table that.
Let's start.
Yeah.
Let's start with, let's not have subsidies for tobacco farmers and pay for money for anti-cigarette ads.
Yeah.
Let's not do both of those things. Let's just stop the government from doing both sides of an issue.
Right.
Let's just do that to start with. And I don't know where we come down at the end, but I do know, and this is the hard part, did Jim Morrison have a worse life than Penn Jillette?
Right.
Don't know. And if you are a 17-year-old girl and you are the best math mind the world has ever known, and you've got a full ride to Stanford, and you will have a life as a mathematician, win the field medal by the time you're 23, and we can tell that from what you're able to do, and you decide that you want to get pregnant and work at McDonald's the rest of your life, do we know that that's the worst choice? And the answer is no. And the fact is, whatever choices, we don't ever get a counterfactual. We never get to run the experiment. We make all these choices all the time. And it's sometimes looking like if I had decided instead of doing the Penn and Teller show in Vegas, if I had made other turns and right now I was a lawyer in Boston, or right now I was working on Howard Johnson's, was out of business, working at a restaurant, Bickford's in Greenfield, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Would my days be that different?
Right.
Would there be days of joy? Would there be days of sadness? Would there be moments of exhilaration? Would there be moments of depression? Most of the science tells us that if you take a lottery winner and if you take someone who is a paraplegic and you look at them 18 months later, there is no way to tell by any metric we're able to study which one of them is happier. Right away, we can tell when you settle into your life. So the fact is, amazing Jonathan sat at a microphone with us, and he told us that he did not regret doing any of the drugs he did. Okay?
Yeah.
There are people right now listening here that are 380 pounds. Let's do a psychic thing. There's someone listening who's 383 pounds.
Mm-hmm. I see you, caller. Call in.
That person has to make a decision if they think they will be marginally happier with a chance, a good chance of living longer if they lose 150 pounds, or if they really want to have 2 tubs of buttered popcorn the next time they see an Avengers movie.
Right.
They have to make that decision. And the fact is, not only do we never get to run the counterfactual, we never get to have control, we never get to do the whole thing, but that information may not matter.
Yeah.
And maybe we have to accept that people make decisions that are suboptimum from our point of view. And the harder thing is, I'm making decisions every day that are suboptimum from my point of view. You know, I will go home after the show tonight and have a lot of peanut butter.
Yeah, and you don't want to.
So I don't know. Yes, people misrepresenting, it's infuriating, but I think maybe we have to just keep considering, can we do it with more freedom?
Yeah, I think the thing that challenges me in my gut is like when we have ethics and logic, I am libertarian all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Is the ethics and logic part that whenever I deep into an issue, that all of a sudden I find myself being like, well, can someone step in? Can someone watch this, or can someone do something about this?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm cool even with, an example which is not libertarian, but an example of what we're talking about with money is that anti-gun money went into funding, PACs and election cycles. For the first time, more anti-gun money was in elections than pro-gun money, which at first you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But then there's just so...
Well, yeah, we're not even talking about the one that is the real issue, which is climate change.
Yeah, exactly.
Which may not be able to be dealt with at an individual level.
Right.
And which may be the whole thing that negates all of libertarian thinking.
Right, because it's going to take a massive program to make that happen.
That guy in the New Yorker, what's his name? Franzen, the novelist, who just wrote, "We can't solve this, give up."
Yeah.
Good thinking. But if you have freedom of speech, that's what you got to have.
Yeah.
But the mistake we're making there is the same as the what about the roads people?
Yeah.
It's pretending that there is an end game to politics.
Right.
Or imagining.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say pretending, imagining.
We're
never going to be entirely libertarian. We're never going to be entirely liberal. We're never going to be entirely conservative. Those are always going to moderate each other.
So what do we do today?
Right. All right, that's an easier...
Peanut butter.
I
thought that was a question for me. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking, what do we do today?
Eat peanut butter and reuse the jar I just ate all the peanut butter out of.
Salt.
I do want to go into the store with my own peanut butter jar and just go,
oh, yeah.
like
definitely.
an ice cream thing and fill it up. Oh, yeah.
They have that, right?
Yeah, some places, yeah.
Yeah, they have
great.
it at Asshole
Sprouts,
Foods.
maybe. Yeah.
Asshole Foods have that?
Yeah. Yep.
We should do that. But we're going to do some bank shows, and I'm really excited about
here.
these. So let's, that was Penn Sunday School. Cha-cha-cha. You become naked. Yeah, we're going to do this whole bank show with Gary Marcus. Sometime when I'm sick or tired, we'll put on. We're going to talk about AI and robots.
There he is. I can see him. There's Gary Marcus right there.
I got notes for this show.
Do you?
I got notes for the bank show. You glorious bastard. I read your book. I love you.